Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mastering the Drop, the real view of recovery. This is our series for the month of March, Living in Your Freedom. And what we are doing this month is jumping into living free. And the first path we need to journey is loving and honoring ourselves, making ourselves the priority, and taking care of ourselves from the inside out is what brings us clarity, purpose, integrity, pride, and direction. And that alone is where we find relief. And believe me, guys, I get it. I have been on a recovery journey. I've been on a sobriety journey of recovery for the last 8 years now. And so this is, for me, a monumental year because wow, 8 years, that's not a sharp stick in the eye as far as having, really gained control over my relationship with alcohol. But I don't like to shortchange that because I want people to understand that the recovery process is really the recreation, the rebirth of our lifestyle. And so if I'm being real honest about it, I've been on a recovery journey for 25 plus years now, right? Because my addictions with food, with eating disorders, body dysmorphia, and control needs and perfectionism and fear of failure, fear of change, and those internal dialogues that had me saying things like, my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions, my opinions, my beliefs, my dreams, my desires, my wants were not valid. They didn't hold any value and they weren't worth sharing or even exploring at all. So I've been on that big journey for a good 25 years. And of course it started when I met my husband, because that is when, and not purposefully, which is our topic for today. So when I met my husband, I was introduced to a whole new kind of unconditional positive regard, and wow, completely life-changing as a survivor of domestic violence, sexual assault, and a whole lot of other traumas. Right now, I knew what unconditional love was, from my son, I gave birth to. But as far as in those intimate relationships where, and men, I don't want to single you out here, but a lot of us women, we attach ourselves and we get lost. We become our role. And I know men, you become your role also, right? So you become either, and actually, let's just take gender out of it. We all fall prey to falling into whatever role we choose to adopt in our relationships and just in our life as a whole, right? And we look at life balance as home, work, and sometimes we give it that little middle point of health. And that's what we teeter back and forth between. But oh my gosh, have I not ever discovered that there are truly 8 primary categories that we need to be focused on. And in that, there are 6 subcategories. So, we need to, if we want to be completely fulfilled, especially on a recovery journey, whether that's alcohol, opiates, marijuana, you name it, right? It doesn't matter what it is. If it's a food addiction, if it's a shopping habit, right? Whatever it is that's holding you hostage, we can find a better lifestyle for ourselves. We can edit, delete, transform, transcend to new heights. We can find our resilience. We can cultivate anything and everything that we so desire. Also, that we can live a life where we do not feel punished, restricted, guilty, or selfish, but honor ourselves and our integrity. But we have to be willing to find our purpose. What is the purpose? And that purpose is multifaceted also. We need to know what is the purpose behind everything. So spiritually, professionally, with our health on 6 different categories, with our social, right? Our environment, those people, those places, the things, recreation, development, our family, our community, as well as our life planning. We need to be able to get in there and say, how do I want to see myself in my life? How do I want to experience my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions, my opinions, my beliefs, my needs, wants, desires, and dreams? How do I want to shine? How do I want to lead by an effective example? And how do I want to be received by others? But more than that, even on top of all of that, is how do I want to receive other people? How do I want to receive my environment? How do I want to experience? Because we give far too much of our power, our peace, and our mindset away to things outside of us. We innately operate from an external locus of control without even knowing it. So unless we're willing to, and what I mean by that is we allow the person on the freeway that cut us off to derail us and change our complete mindset. We allow ourselves to hear the words that come out of somebody's mouth, however it is that we hear it, right? We have to learn how to hear through the filter. So if I say, I can't believe you did that, somebody might receive that. If I'm not in a healthy stance, I might hear that as, oh my God, I can't believe you said that, right? Or you did that. And so we have to be really paying attention to how we're receiving anything from outside. How are we processing that? And this is how we start to cultivate our purpose, because we have to know what it is that isn't working for us so that we can make shifts. But I want to introduce again, because Dee Dee was with us here last week, and she was here with us a couple weeks ago when we kicked off Mastering the Drop. And Dee Dee is, she herself has been on a recovery journey that is completely different even for her. We both, I think we connect because we both do face autoimmune issues, and this brings forth very unique needs for us in our journeys. And so we just really hit it off, and I wanted to make sure to invite her back for today's topic, which is purpose. Dee Dee, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here.
I was so happy to be with you. Always a joy. Always a joy to turn on my computer and get to see your smiling face. So I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. So what is purpose for you in your journey?
So for me in my journey, you mentioned that, I also have an autoimmune disorder. I have multiple sclerosis. And for anyone who has an autoimmune disorder or knows and loves somebody who has one, and they are more wide ranging than people realize, like many things, but autoimmune disorders in particular, inflammation is our enemy. And inflammation can be caused by a whole host of things, including stress. For me, it can be the weather, but it can also be food. And it took me longer in my autoimmune journey to figure out that last part. And, you don't know what you don't know until suddenly you know it. And, and finding my purpose, I changed my career, I changed all these things, and I found myself figuring out that eating better made more sense and I felt better. And it made me want to help other people find that purpose as well. So, we all need a sense of purpose in our lives. We all need it. But many people don't see how that translates to what and how we eat. And so, purpose is a broad, but sometimes vague concept to people. We say, oh, well, we want purpose, but how do we make that tangible? So I would like to apply that idea to food and help people translate that to purpose that means something to them that's really individualized, because that's all different for all of us. So, my purpose from unhealthy food, I mentioned because of my multiple sclerosis, it really impacted my clarity. There's that word from last week, clarity, around how it impacts my health. It can be overwhelming to find a path that includes sustainable meal plans and choices. And so I love working with folks who have various challenges, whether it's autoimmune or not. I just use that as my example on how I came to this. But people who say, I have this list of things that I've been told I can't have or shouldn't have or won't have, or sometimes they're just picky. I have all these things, and it's the big list of the I can'ts, I won'ts, I shouldn'ts. And I like to turn it on its head and help people find that there's actually a long list of things that you can have. And how do I help you find that to meet your purpose for health through a meal plan that's going to work for you and meet you where you are. So, for I think for a lot of us, at least for me, but I think for a lot of us, finding purpose, even around food, sometimes means finding others who can share the same need or desire. And the way I work with clients, we offer not only weekly meal plans and grocery lists and tips and tricks and all of those things to help people stay on track that meet their needs, but we also offer regular opportunities for connection with like-minded people, all trying to their best to maintain the motivation to work toward their purpose of eating better on the regular. So giving people a chance to be heard, share successes and speed bumps, because we all hit them, and get regular tips and tricks that make the changes work for them. It's key to bringing purpose to how their healthier meal plans impact them short-term and long-term. So for instance, I've got a client that came to me, and her purpose for coming to me was not only a list of things that she needed, but she was having some real big shifts in her life. She was going through a separation. She was staying with a family member, for a month or two. She wanted to stay on eating in a good fashion, but life was really crazy. So she asked me to help her come up with make ahead meals that were able to be put in the freezer ahead of time, that were going to be able to be put in a slow cooker or an instant pot, and that she could parcel them out for multiple meals in the week. So all these different components, her purpose was very specific. And so I was able to help her come up with a meal plan that she spent one Sunday doing nothing but prep. And for her, you mentioned that whole bringing yourself back to the process and how that fed her, no pun intended, how that fed her, in here, which really helped feed her also in here and be able to deal with everything out there. And so her needs were specific. I was able to customize those. I was able to help her over that speed bump of her own and help get her on a path that now she can reach back to those when she needs them as things continue to shift. So it's not just helping people find their purpose, but sometimes they come to me with their own purpose as well. So, what I like to say is I try to help plan better so that people can eat better, and that eating better really helps them on their path to their purpose. So
I love that.
I'll stop talking now.
No, you know what? It's just so many things are just racing through my head because we come up with the ideas and the thoughts and whatnot, right? And it's that translatable, because I hear this, and I think I even said this in our talk about clarity, is oftentimes people think that they have this purpose. My purpose is to eat better. My purpose is to be healthy. And I work with a lot of people in recovery, so it's a lot of all or nothing. Mm-hmm. So I'll get people that are like, okay, I'm gonna quit drinking, and I'm gonna only eat healthy, and I'm gonna exercise. And so now what we have this whole new series of attachments, and not necessarily the best idea. Now, I get it, that sounds a little crazy, but the purpose behind creating a recovery lifestyle, the journey's purpose, is to make it lifelong, manageable, maintainable. And you see, I'm hearing all of these words and you're using, and I'm like, yes, we can attain it, but we got to make sure that it's lifelong, manageable, and maintainable, which means we don't just go, okay, celery and carrot sticks for lunch, a can of tuna, and a couple of hard-boiled eggs, and then maybe a small meal at dinner, and I should be good, because it's all healthy choices. That doesn't necessarily make it, one, the right fuel for you. Because if you notice, there was small amounts of protein in there, but not all of the foods that we need, right? We got to make sure that we're ticking all of the vitamins and minerals and nutrients that are especially for recovery, right? And so I have this list of, nutrients and vitamins and minerals and, whatnot that is beneficial depending upon what the recovery is for. But if we don't create that purpose for it to be lifelong, manageable, and maintainable, what are we going to do? We're going to crash diet, and then we're going to start anyway. And it starts these crazy cycles. So I think looking at what's going to work best for me lifelong. And sometimes that's situational, right? Like your client. Right. This is my current situation. This is what's going to work for me best. It's not necessarily that she changed her food items or, preferences. It's just, this is the fashion that it's going to serve me best. Help me create a menu, make my menu accessible to me in this way. But then when she gets her own place, it may still look the same. The meals may be the same. The nutrients might be the same, but it might have that ability to be more tactile, right? Like in the moment, making, spending time with myself every day, creating that relationship with food. And it's not all about the food, but because if you guys are listening and you're hearing everything that Dee Dee and I are talking about is really embracing a process. It's really cultivating a purpose in your relationship with yourself from the inside out, which really makes changes that unless you've done the journey, you don't know what you don't know until you know what you didn't know.
Yep.
Right? I think I said that the same way you did. But it's the truth. It's the truth. And sometimes we also have to be willing to add, edit, delete, change more regularly. I have to do it all the time, sometimes more frequently than I desire. But, we have to, because we have to, if we're listening to our body, right, then it works. Please finish up. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I mean, but what you were saying is right. I know, but the things have to change. For that particular client, that was a finite amount of time that she was looking at those specific needs. But she knew that the tools that I was going to give her were going to be beneficial longer than just that short amount of time. There were things that she was going to be able to fall back on, reach back to pull forward as things changed and shifted. My background is actually not in this. I am not a nutritionist. I'm not a dietitian. I said this last week, but I am someone with the autoimmune disorder that learned I'm not going to live forever. And so trying to translate my journey to helping others on that journey. So my background is in nonprofit management and strategic planning. But I find that the idea, what I used to train for strategic plans for groups, was that things will change. Like your plan can look like this, and it's great, and it looks fantastic, and it's shiny, and isn't it pretty? When life happens, as it's prone to do, things will change. It's like a spreadsheet. If you change one thing over here, things are going to change over here, and it's okay. As long as your aim, your compass heading is the same, as long as your purpose is still intact, the tools and the path you take to get there might look different day to day. But if that compass heading is the same and the tools are there for you, I want to be able to give you plans and tools that you can use no matter what that looks like on any day of the week.
Yes. I love it. I love it.
It's organic. It's organic. It changes, and that's okay.
I call it being flexible and pliable, because when we get so rigid, when we get too rigid and we dig our heels in, we have to be right all the time, or we just don't like change. That rigidity just promotes breakage.
Yep.
Right. So if we can just stay flexible and pliable, we have an opportunity to actually be able to be softer, kinder, gentler to ourselves, but also experience a whole lot less stress because life happens.
Yep.
Right. Thank you again. I can't wait to come back in here again with you. where I think the next time we see you, Dee Dee, it's going to be in the panel, right? And that's, I believe, the 23rd, but you guys are going to get it. We're making ourselves available to you every week for Mastering the Drop on Wednesdays. Typically, it's going to be dropping at noon on Wednesdays. But when we do our big live panel, that's going to be at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Just be watching for the announcements. If you want this schedule, you can also send me a direct message and I'll be happy to send it to you directly so you can mark your own calendars. But for now, I wanted to give everybody a little bit of a prompt. And because I think finding our purpose is really important. And so what I wanted to do is, if this sparked your thoughts at all about how you might be able to hone in and love yourself even better, or with a greater sense of purpose based on clarity that you've gained over the last week or two, right, is to take a moment and jump over to turningleavesrecovery.com. I've put a free download on my homepage. So it's just going to pop up. You can download it. It is a section from Attain, which is the center portion of Evolve, which is an invitation only program. But this is where we start to cultivate some serious purpose. And so the things that we've been talking about here today, as well as last week, you're going to find some worksheets that are going to help you move through that and really give you some food for thought. But there's also an amazing day planner sheet that you can start utilizing so that you can start tracking a little bit of your food, right? And how that's happening for you, which also may help you come to the determination or the realization that you could use a little help and guidance, whether that is asking for me to send you over a healthy living 7-day food mood journal, where we can start to identify some things before we engage with Dee Dee, or if it's all three of us together at one time, or if you'd rather try working with Dee Dee direct by yourself, cultivating those meal plans, completely fine. But that's all available to you. So in the comments or in the description, depending upon where you're viewing this episode, take a poke around. You'll find all of my contact information, direct and web and social media, etc. But you'll also find everything you need to reach out and get a hold of Dee Dee directly, and where you can learn more about what she does.
Great.
Did you have any closing remarks?
No, I just look forward to really helping translate everything that we're talking about to how people live, and to how they embrace their purpose, and how they do that in a way that isn't overwhelming, isn't scary, and is sustainable. So I look forward to working with folks around that. So
thank you.
I look forward to that.
You are so valuable. I don't know if you know it yet, but you are very valuable, and you've brought a lot to my life, just joining me here for this, and I appreciate all of your engagement with Mastering the Drop as we bring real, practical, purposeful tactics to people that are evidence-based in nature, but realistic in action. Anyway, I look forward to seeing you again soon. Be well.